This demonstration is an introduction to Deep Exploration CAD Edition. In this demonstration we're going to show the standard capabilities of the CAD Edition. We're going to load a model in, as we see here. This is a small helicopter model. We're going to do some optimization, some materials adjustment. We're going to create some animation, put against a background, and later on we will continue on to do some rendering. So to start off with, we may first want to optimize this model. Deep Exploration provides us with a number of tools for viewing the polygons. We can see here that we're viewing the model in a wireframe mode. We can see how many polygons here. We could in fact reduce the number. We may decide that it's important for delivery across the web or just efficient use in a much larger scene. So to do that, we're going to need to use the CAD Tools module. So we'll load that module up, and so we can either select objects individually for optimization, or we can select nothing, and in this case we're going to use the reduce model function, and by selecting nothing it will assume we want to process the entire model. So we're going to hit the process model. Just before we do that, we'll run through the settings. We do want to join vertices. In this case also we should affect the colors we would like to influence the reduction, so that it will maintain boundaries at the edges of colors, or we could particularly force it to maintain boundaries on polygons at the edges of materials. We can turn that on as well. We can join UVs, join color information for further optimization, but in this case we'll just go with the standard settings. We won't generate a new mesh, we're simply going to overwrite the existing mesh, and we won't bother with a suffix. So by processing this model now, we will enable the real-time optimization tool. You can see here, if we take a closer look at the model, as we slide this down, we're able to reduce this model down quite significantly. We're down to 50% of the original here, and we're still noticing very little degradation. In fact, we can go right down to 20% of the original size before we notice any serious degradation. We'll in fact choose a value in this case of 30%. That should provide us the best compromise of both quality and performance. So we'll OK to that, and we can see here that this model, we'll put it back into the solid mode. We've not compromised the appearance in any significant manner, and it's now 30% of its original size. So the next thing that we may choose to do is to add some materials. We can go through with our materials tab, and we can just simply drag and drop materials onto the surface of the object. We'll take this one for example, and we'll drop a gold material on. However, there are many other parts of this model that have that material, so we can use our Control Z key or the undo function to remove that material. We're now going to use the actual materials tab to choose materials. In this case we'll select the green body. We're going to override that with a red metal. We'll have a red helicopter now. The interior we may want to dress up with a simple pelt texture. We can apply perspex to the glass, and this glass has both an interior and an exterior, so we'll apply to both sides. We may choose to apply some black metal to the guns and tank equipment. In fact, we'll use that selection there. And lastly we'll select the blades, and we'll give them a white metal texture. So we can see here that we have a new coloured helicopter. So the next part of our demonstration, we're going to proceed to do some animation here. We're going to animate the rotors. So the first step that we may want to take is to select the rotors. I'm going to move the model into an outline mode, and this helps us identify components more easily than the standard shaded mode. And we can flip freely between different render modes, in fact, at any time that we desire. So again, we'll go back to the solid outline mode. So what we want to do here is to select all of the components, hit the control key. We'll choose in fact a rectangular selection, and we'll select all objects. We'll go to our scene tree, and we'll see that we've actually selected a variety of different components. We in fact want to create a group from these, and we'll call this group the rotor group. The reason for doing this is so that we can select independently. The first thing that we may want to do with this rotor group is to ensure that the pivot point is actually at the object center. Let's take a look at the pivot point for this rotor. We'll see that in fact with a 5-bladed propeller, the center of this rotor is actually somewhat off center from the main hub. So we can choose our top view for this helicopter. We'll now zoom in, and we're going to move this pivot position. This is the pivot point upon which the rotor will turn during our animations. So we're going to move this up using the handles on our gizmo. We can also go into wireframe mode, and that will help us locate the center. And we can see the center of the rotor here. So this should have created a center for the rotation of that group. So the next part of the demonstration will show how we actually animate this. So to animate things, we need to create keyframes. So we're going to use the Edit Keyframes tool. We click on this, and we see that down below we've created a little animation area. We've got 20 frames. We can click on this, we can edit it. We may in fact want to change our frames per second to 30, and we'll make it a 2-second animation, so that will result in 60 frames. So what we do is we move the frame slider to the last frame of our animation, and then we simply move objects, or we can change colors or rotations, and we simply place them in the position that we want at frame 60. And what will happen is an animation will be created between the state that the model was loaded in and the keyframe state. So in this case we're going to select the rotor group. We're at frame 60. We're going to choose our rotation command, and we can spin the rotor here. We can see this rotor, we'll spin that through a large number of rotations, and we can come back and edit the exact number of rotations if we wish. We can play back that animation now, and we can see that we've created an animation for the helicopter here. The next step is that we want to do the same with the tail rotor. So we can move into here and select the tail rotor. Again, we want to tools, we want to move the pivot point to this object center. We'll go to the last frame, and we'll select to rotate this a large number of times as well. Again, we can come back and edit that later. So let's look at the resulting animation of the helicopter that we have created. Now this is terrific, but we may in fact now want to fly this helicopter. So the best way to achieve that is to select all objects in the scene, create a group of them all together, so that again we can now select the entire helicopter as one group. So we're going to select the helicopter, and we'll move the pivot point to that a center for that group. And we'll now, again, we're still in the keyframe mode, we'll move to frame 15, and we'll pick up the helicopter, and we'll start flying it up from the scene here, and we'll come round to frame 30. We'll rotate the helicopter on its axis, and maybe we'll give it a little forward momentum, and we'll then go and add some more vertical height and distance as it takes off, and finally off into the distance with a little bit more spin in this direction. Now we'll see initially that this curve that has been created, if we play back this animation, it has sharp corners on the path, resulting in a less than smooth animation. Now to fix that problem, we can now go to the animation timeline, and we'll see here that we have the entire path, and we're looking now at the rotation of this entire group. We can adjust these keys, move them to any point, add new keys and so forth. We're going to set the track properties for the position in this case. So we'll go to the track properties and select TCP interpolation. We should now find that a helicopter takes a smoother path. We can close down our animation timeline. The last thing that we may wish to do with this animation is to provide a background. So we're going to select now a background for our group, for our model. So we click in the scene here, make sure that we're set to perspective mode. We're going to open a background. In this case we'll choose a background image against the trees. Let's move our helicopter now. We can still see the shadows working for us, and we'll set this helicopter in the scene. We'll go to the solid rendering mode, and let's play our animation now and see how. Turn the keyframe off at this stage, and you can see how we've generated a helicopter animation flying away from our scene. This concludes this part of the demonstration. We'll go on from here to create some renderings in the next demonstration.